So here's the tools that I've got together to start doing the porting work. I have a pneumatic die grinder. I've got an electric die grinder. I got a sanding disc or got a sanding cone set for doing the finish work. Safety glasses because little bits of iron are going to go flying everywhere. Hearing protection because these things can get kind of loud. And I've got some breathing protection here because this tends to kick up dust. It tends to create dust. And it's just better to not breathe that in. And for the die grinders, I have a couple of these carbide burrs that I've had for a really long time, and they're getting kind of worn out and chipped, and I've lost one of them. So I ordered a new set. Only the ones I got are the shorter ones. But they'll be here tomorrow, so that won't set me back too much. The other thing with this electric die grinder, it doesn't have a speed regulator on it. So I got this, and that seems like it works. And I'll just show you a quick demonstration of it. And that can be kind of handy sometimes because depending on what you're using it on and where you are and whatnot, being able to control the speed of that a little bit can be helpful. Alright, so that's what I've got to start with. I guess I'll get the cylinder head up here and actually start working on it. So the way I'm going to get started is I'm going to start radiusing this over and start blending these sides of where the port meets the bowl. I'm going to start smoothing that transition and just doing some light radiusing on the bowl there. And then we'll do a little bit of that work and I'll show it to you, and then we'll do a flow test on that. Okay, so where I'm at right now is I've kind of rounded that over and I'm hoping I didn't lay that back too far. It's tempting when you're doing this stuff to just want to keep removing material thinking that you're making things better, and sometimes you are and sometimes you're not. And then the other place I took the material out was here on the sides. There and in here, and I'm trying to keep this pretty conservative because what I don't want to have happen is I don't want to go through the casting anywhere, because you know that would end this party in a big hurry. So what I'm about to do is put it back on the flow bench and see what difference that made. Okay, so these are the flow test numbers that I got after doing I call it there the short side bowl blend, but we'll just call it the bowl blend. But, you know, at any rate, it looks like it picked up a little bit everywhere. And it looks like at 500,000, so I was over, what is that, 15? Over 15 CFM, almost 16 CFM. So, I guess the next part of the port I'm going to work on is that valve guide boss. So, okay, we'll go look at that. Okay, so the next area I'm going to work on is the valve guide boss here. And it's kind of hard to see from here, but it does protrude up a significant amount. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to knock that down quite a bit. Its height, I'm going to knock its height down quite a bit, and I'm going to try to make it a nice streamlined shape out of it. So what I'm also going to be doing when I do that is a little bit of a compromise, because the shorter I make this, the less support that the valve is going to have. So by doing this, I'm probably going to shorten the life of the valve guide. But I think in situations like this, hopefully the benefits outweigh the negatives. So, and it probably won't hurt the stability of the valve guide that much. So I'm willing to make that compromise. Okay, so that's about what I was able to do with that. I didn't feel like I wanted to knock that boss down any further than I did. The purpose of it was to streamline that shape so that the air would flow around it more smoothly. So let's go back to the flow bench and see what, if any, difference that made. Okay, so the column on the far right is the valve guide boss streamline, and it looks like streamlining the valve guide boss didn't do much at low lifts, at the lower flow rates, which kind of is not, that's kind of what I would have expected. Something like that, it seems like that boss would only be an issue at higher flow rates. So, I don't know, we're up 23 CFM at 500,000 so far. So I guess the next thing to do would be to do a little work on the push rod pinch. So let's go do that and see how that goes. Okay, now this picture's kind of upside down, but this next step here that I'm going to take is I'm going to try to open up that push rod pinch a little bit. I'm not going to be able to take much there because the casting, I think, is pretty thin. And I don't know how thin it is, and I don't want to go through it, so I'm not going to take a ton of material off of it. But I'll take some off of there, and I think maybe some down through here. And then at the same time, I'm just going to clean up. This is actually the roof of it. I've got his cylinder head upside down, sorry. But I'm just going to clean up the roof and the floor. I'm only going to smooth up the floor. I'm not going to take off. I'm really not going to take material off of that. It's not a place I like to remove material. So we'll just smooth this up, clean it up, open up the push rod pinch, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so there it is with the push rod pinch opened up. The way I kind of figured out how much I was taking out is I zeroed this before I removed any material. And I'd say I opened up the push rod pinch about 1/8 of an inch. Not a lot. That was about as much as I dared take out. I really don't want to go through the castings on this. There may be a lot more there. I don't know. I don't want to find out the hard way though. And then I just smoothed out the I removed a little bit of material off the roof, and just simply smoothed up the bottom and the sides, and went over it with some 80 grit. And I might do a little bit more polishing on it, but that'll just be for, you know, making it look good. And just finishing it, just making it a nice clean finish. So with that done, that's about as much as I'm going to do with these. I know that there's probably more. There's probably a lot more you could do with these, but this is where my experience kind of stops. So anyway, let's flow it one more time and we'll call it a day. Okay, so there are the flow numbers after opening up the push rod pinch, and over here I just used Excel to come up with the differences between the initial ones and my final ones, and those were the improvements. So honestly, 26 CFM isn't bad at 500,000, so I'm kind of happy with that improvement. And I left that column there in case I decide to go in and try to do up a little bit more. So we'll see. After all the porting's done, I'm going to do one more flow test because I am going to get a 3-angle valve job done on it. So that might help improve the low lift flows a little bit. Now I've got to go through and do the same exact thing I did to that port to the other 7 and bring those up to where this one is. Anyway, I guess that's about it for this week. We'll see you next week when we port the exhaust.